Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna hit y'all with a review of the new J.Arrr album entitled Broken Easel. Let's get to it. Alright, so J.Arrr is a thoughtful and lyrically clever MC coming out of Wilson, North Carolina. He's been making music since around 2017, and I would imagine that most people got their introduction to J.Arr's music by way of his Ransom collaborations within the past year. Earlier in 2021, J.Arr had dropped an EP produced entirely by Nicholas Craven entitled Hoop Dreams, but to be completely honest, this new project, Broken Easel, is the first release that I've heard from J.Arr. And my first impression was that he is a true lyricist through and through. His verses are jam-packed with witty wordplay, punchlines, similes, and metaphors. But he is able to give you more than just the lyrical gymnastics. I mean, this album has quite a bit of introspective content as well as some storytelling. So from a lyrical standpoint, I really dig what he's bringing to the table. This new project, Broken Easel, contains 12 tracks and lasts approximately 41 minutes. The guest features include Fabian, Grips, Pierre Fleming, Ransom, Mickey Fax, Q-Ham, Big B the Boss, Shakina Iman, and Elzai. But with that being said, let me go ahead and just hit y'all with this track by track breakdown. This thing kicks off with the track Hidden Arts. There's actually a beat shift, but the first instrumental has a bouncy and atmospheric quality. He sets it off with a pretty deep question: how you chasing thick pockets with thin knowledge? Then there's a clever MySpace reference. I'm never conforming, I'm gonna fly straight. When it comes to MySpace, I still got time in my top 8. The second beat also has somewhat of an ethereal vibe. J.Arr reflects back to when his cousin got caught slipping. He raps, I write, but I actually witnessed it. That's why I drop gems like I canceled my membership. It's a strong opening track that sets the tone that this will be a very bar-heavy album. Track 2, Creations, finds J.Arr dropping some thoughtful gems over this mystical and flute-like beat. Here, J.Arr raps about black people being the descendants of kings and queens. He advises his people to know their worth, free their minds, and then not fall into the trap of worshiping money. But despite all of the uplifting content, he does manage to squeeze in a creative gun bar. And I praise violence, but it's a teenage love story on how we dump them dudes. Track 3, Nothing, has J.Arr and Fabian trading bars over some wailing soul chops, and J.Arr can be seen as attacking the mic pretty aggressively here. He raps, pass the plates, our food for thought just has an aftertaste that keeps you coming back to the gospel. That's just like Pastor Mace. He even finds time to touch upon the Robinhood trading app scandal from months back with the lines, the government's still robbing hoods, don't make the game stop. Right after is Abstract featuring Atlanta rapper Grips. Instrumentally, we begin to enter into some atmospheric trap territory. On this record, J.Arr hits us with a lot of boastful and slick content. A line that grabbed my attention was, I guess I did sell my soul because it's in the music. His guest feature Grips provides us with an ultra eerie verse. His vocal inflections appear more wild and distorted than usual. Grips declares, I'm that reaper that levitate over hearses driven, collect a soul that I meditate over murder victims. Track 5, Yeah Yeah, is a posse cut between J.Arr, Q-Ham, and Big B the Boss. They each provide 2 verses over a jazzy boom bap beat. Now, I didn't particularly love this instrumental, but it was serviceable. Although I did like how they repurposed some lines from AZ's classic Mo Money, Mo Murder, Mo Homicide towards the end. While I thought his featured artists had some solid verses, I found myself wishing that J.Arr would have rapped this by himself, or at least had Ransom or Shay Noor as a feature. The following track, Growth, featuring Elzai, is essentially an ode to self-improvement. This is backed by some bright chipmunk soul production that almost has a slight gospel flair. Here, J.Arr and Elzai hand out game and life advice like some true OGs. Elzai wisely talks about the pitfalls of the street life and the importance of learning from one's past mistakes. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed the message, the Elzai feature, and the uplifting soul production. On Self-Portrait, J.Arrr shows off his storytelling abilities on top of a laid-back and hazy loop. It's a cautionary tale for those who seek too much sexual pleasure. There's an autobiographical component to the track as well, as J.Arrr admits to battling self-addiction at one point in his life. The subsequent record, Nobody Else, has the most contemporary sounding production on the album. Here we get J.Arrr spitting some romantic and relationship bars over a trap-like R&B beat. This features some auto-crooning vocals from Pierre Fleming, which I actually didn't find to be too bad. While I don't have this track as one of my favorites, I did like that J.Arrr attempted to deviate from a more traditional sound, and this showed that he is able to sound at ease over this mode of production. Track 9, Empty Promises with Ransom and Mickey Fax, is a definite standout. This is built around an attractive soul sample, which is easily one of the best on the album, even though it is drumless. While I feel Mickey Fax and J.Arrr dropped dope verses, it was Duffel Bag Ran who had the MVP verse. The following lines of his really resonated with me. No matter how good you are, there's always someone to criticize you. Now, as much as I like this song, I tend to skip over Mickey Fax's spoken word at the end, not because I didn't appreciate the content or like his message, but because I found his overly dramatic delivery to sound a bit much, maybe a little corny. Track 10, Crown, has more of an up-tempo soul backdrop. It's a record that I could envision J. Cole sounding right at home on, and I like J.Arr's slight double time flow here as well, and I found the chopped and screwed hook to be a nice touch. The second to last track is Art Lessons. It's a self-reflective and autobiographical track about overcoming the struggle. This has a meditative and chill backdrop with soft synths and some soothing R&B vocals from Shakina Iman. Then the album comes to a conclusion with Broken Easel. This is a strong finisher, which finds J.Arr spitting his heart out over a sentimental soul beat, and I feel this sample reminds me a lot of the one Jay-Z used on Somehow, Some Way. Overall, I give this album a rating of 4 mics. I found this project to be a pleasant surprise, as J.Arr was able to craft a well-balanced album that showcased his versatility as an MC. From a lyrical perspective, he was able to, I think, cover a lot of bases, whether it was the wordplay, the introspection, storytelling, punchlines, and just general braggadocio. You know, he proved that he's more than just a punchline rapper, that there was quite a bit of substantive and meaningful content on deck. I did enjoy the majority of the production, which tended to be on the smoother and soulful side. Still, there was enough of a bounce to keep these instrumentals interesting. The only thing that I can say is that his rapping voice might not be the most engaging or the most distinct for some folks, but that really wasn't an issue for me, as I feel his pen game was super strong and the production was really on point throughout much of the album. As a result, I do plan on checking out his previous bodies of work. My favorite tracks include Hidden Arts, Abstract, Growth, Empty Promises, Crown, Art Lessons, and Broken Easel. Let me know what you thought about this project in the comment section below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. J.Arrr, Broken Easel 1.